Today, we're going to be answering the question that has been pondering our minds for just over a year. Who is the main antagonist in Inside Out? Hello there, how you doing? Okay, so we all know the obvious upfront answer to this question. There is no villain in Inside Out! And those of you who have done your research will know that in the original scripts of the film, Bing Bong was intended to be the villain, but that was then scrapped later on in the works of the film, so Bing Bong wasn't the villain. And I think that's a good thing, because Bing Bong was literally my favourite character from Inside Out. It's okay. But when you actually watch the film, there are literally no so-called bad characters in the entire film. Well, you know, other than Riley's mum, who steals credit cards for a living. But literally, rewatch the film. Every character you're supposed to look at on a good light. There's no character which you look at and think, that's the bad guy. Every character is supposed to be good. And this really annoys me, because there's no other Pixar film without a villain in it. Toy Story, Sid Phillips. A Bug's Life, Hopper. Toy Story 2, Al. Monsters Inc., Randall or Waternoose. Finding Nemo, P. Sherman or Darla. The Incredibles, Syndrome. Cars, Chick Hicks. Ratatouille, Chef Skinner. Wall-E, Alto. Up, Charles Muntz. Toy Story 3, Lotso. Cars 2, Miles Axelrod. Brave, Mordu. Monsters University, Johnny Worthington, or basically any character from Raw and Mega Raw. But when you get to the why am I still doing this? When you get to the 15th film, Inside Out, there is no villain at all. Like, not even in the slightest. Well, you know, unless you consider Joy to be the villain in Inside Out. But I disagree with that because, well, Joy is the main protagonist of the film, so how could she be the main antagonist as well? That makes no sense. And even though she does do some bad things, in the end, she does save the day. Or at least she realizes Sadness is the one who needs to save the day and let Sadness save the day.
Sadness?
But yeah, regardless, I don't think you can classify Joy as the villain of the film. And that is because secretly, another emotion in the film is the villain. None other than anger. What? No way! How? If only my comment section was like this. Okay, well, it's obvious that joy is the head emotion in Riley's brain. Because, well, she is clearly in charge. And it's also made clear that there are other emotions in charge of other people's heads. For example, sadness is in charge of her mum's head, and anger is in charge of her dad's head. And my first question is, how did Joy get to be in charge? Like, are there elections every few years where the workers get to vote on which emotion's in charge in HQ? Okay, I agree. I'm looking into this in way too much detail. I know not even Pete Docter would have thought into this much detail about who was in charge in Riley's head. Well, you know, except for the fact the film's making Joy a fascist dictator inside Riley's mind. Which explains why the emotions aren't sitting down in a civilized democratic manner like the emotions in her parents' head are. But, you know, that's a whole other theory. Wow. I just got really off topic. No surprise this was the top comment in my last video. I really need to work on that. Okay, so yeah, how is anger the villain in Inside Out? Okay, so you know when Joy and Sadness have their adventure and get lost in long-term memory and everything?
Can I say that curse word now?
None other than anger sees this as his chance to take control and become the new head emotion in HQ. But he realizes that Joy probably will get back eventually. So he realizes he has to completely change her personality so that when she gets back, he is the one in control. And there's much more evidence for this than you might think. Firstly, anger is at fault for the fight Riley has with her parents, which leads to her getting sent to her room, which in turn leads to Goofball Island being destroyed.
That's it. Go to your room.
I think you can see where this is going. Anger is also at fault for her losing her temper with her friend, which leads to her to end the video call, which in turn destroys Friendship Island.
I hear they have parrots.
I gotta go.
What?
I gotta go.
And you'll never guess which emotion causes her to have a tantrum, leading her to storm off the hockey pitch and quit hockey, which leads to Hockey Island being destroyed. Yeah, it was anger.
That's it.
No, freeze. Find your happy place.
And most importantly, who has the idea for her to run away?
What is it? Oh, nothing. Just the best idea ever.
Which of course leads to her stealing her mum's credit card. It's actually crazy how much stealing there is in this film. And that destroys Honesty Island. And the whole process of running away destroys Family Island. So basically, anger is at fault for the destruction of all Riley's islands of personality. You could literally say he's changing Riley's personality from the inside out. I'm so sorry. Okay, but understandably, the argument is, if Anger is actually the villain in Inside Out, he would have to be doing these things intentionally. And I think he is, because he wants to be in charge of HQ. However, he realizes his plan isn't a good one when he destroys Family Island and Riley literally can't feel anything. And when you're an emotion, this is a real problem.
Guys, we can't make Riley feel anything.
What have we done?
And at that point, he realizes they actually do need joy and sadness, because the only way Riley can function properly as a person is when all the emotions are working together. Because with anger just on his own, well, you know, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering, and suffering leads to the dark side, and you don't want Riley becoming a Sith Lord. They may as well have just named the film Inside Out, Return of the Emotion. Okay, I really need to stop making bad Star Wars puns. Okay, so what do you think? Is Anger the villain in Inside Out? Even if he is, he's a very hidden villain and really isn't an obvious villain like other Pixar films. And I actually found it really interesting when I noticed after seeing Finding Dory 2 months ago, there isn't really a villain in Finding Dory either. And The Good Dinosaur, the biggest villain they really face is the Storm. Other than like Thunderclap the Aerodactyl. I just called him an Aerodactyl. I'm leaving that in. And there's a lot of talk about how Disney in their latest movies have hidden the villains only to be revealed later in the film. For example, Hans in Frozen, King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph, Assistant Mayor Bellwether in Zootopia, and Professor Callahan in Big Hero 6. And people are claiming this is one of Disney's main methods for success, is revealing this villain late on in the film. But I feel like Pixar have got their new method for success as well. And that is not having a villain in the film at all. Because their last 3 films, there really hasn't been an obvious villain. So when Coco comes out next summer, make sure to look out and see if there actually is a villain in the film. Because I think there's a very good chance there won't be a villain in the film. Because a lack of a villain is Pixar's new method. But don't worry, even if there isn't an obvious villain, I'll find the subtle one. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next Thursday, or Saturday, if you watch my Saturday videos as well. But I'm assuming you don't, because they don't get as many views.